I can still hear her voice that night. Calm, clipped, and merciless. Smiled Josephine. Don't embarrass the family. It wasn't the words that cut, but the way she said family. As if it were a club I was lucky to be tolerated in. I had spent years trying to earn a place at that table, showing up when they needed me, staying silent when I should have spoken, folding myself smaller so their pride could fill the room. Every apology I made, every favor I did was another brick in the wall that kept me out. That night, as the laughter swelled around me, and my name was tossed out like a punchline, something in me finally cracked. It wasn't anger, it was the quiet, steady certainty that I'd run out of reasons to stay quiet. I remember setting my glass down and feeling the weight of all those years fall away with it. They thought I'd keep standing there smiling through the humiliation. But they had no idea what was already shifting beneath their feet. The envelope arrived on a quiet afternoon, its ivory paper thick and deliberate, the Callahan family crest pressed deep into red wax. I didn't need to open it to know what it was. The timing, the elegance. The faint scent of my mother's favorite perfume gave it away. Inside was an invitation written in perfect cursive. The engagement of Madeline Callahan to Lieutenant Commander Ross Hale. For a moment, the air left the room. That name wasn't unfamiliar. I'd seen it before in classified briefings, in encrypted mission reports, in casualty lists that still haunted my sleep. Operation Lynx Fire, a desert. Static on the radio, a man's voice calling for extraction. I folded the card, carefully tracing the wax seal with my thumb until it cracked. Of course my mother, Elaine, would be there. So would the neighbors who pitied me, the relatives who spoke my name with sighs. They'd toast to love and legacy, while pretending not to wonder why I'd never built one of my own. I booked a flight to Charleston that evening. My suitcase was light one navy dress, one pair of heels, and a small metal box that held my father's worn military ID. He'd once told me, "You don't need to shout, Joe. The right people will know when to listen." I didn't realize then that his words would echo louder than any toast waiting for me. Back home, Charleston hadn't changed. The magnolia trees still leaned over the narrow streets. The air still smelled of river water and salt, and the houses still looked like they were holding their breath. I slowed when I reached my mother's house. White shutters, brick steps. Every inch curated to impress people she secretly despised. She opened the door with a powdered smile, and that lilting drawl she saved for company. "Well, if it isn't our ghost child." "Come in, Joe." Her arms circled me, stiff and careful, like she was afraid the gesture might smudge her lipstick. Inside, the air was thick with jasmine and polish. The furniture hadn't moved in 10 years, but one thing had: the photograph of my father in uniform was gone. From above the fireplace in its place hung a large portrait of Madeline in her engagement dress, pearls around her throat, her face arranged into my mother's idea of perfection. While she poured tea, I noticed how her hands trembled. Only when she thought no one was looking. "Try not to talk about your computer things tonight," she said. "People don't get it." "Don't worry, I'm trained to stay quiet." "Still taking orders, I see." Her laugh was crisp and hollow, the kind that filled silence but never warmth. I went upstairs, the same stairs my father's boots once echoed on. From the window landing, I could see the Ashley River glimmering in the sun, still patient, refusing to change for anyone. In my old room, time had turned everything fragile. The wallpaper had faded, the books smelled of dust, but the air carried something heavier, a memory that never left. I opened my suitcase, reached past the dress, folded inside, and lifted the small metal box beneath it. Inside were 3 things: my father's service tag, my own, and a silver-only pin engraved with, "For those who stay silent so others may live." I held it until my palm warmed the metal. That phrase had guided my entire life. Silence had saved others, protected missions, even spared lives. But now it felt less like duty and more like armor. The next evening, my mother hosted a dinner for our hero, Wum. The dining room glowed under chandeliers, every glass and plate positioned like part of a photo shoot. I sat halfway down the table where I could see but not be seen. Elaine lifted her glass, her voice sugar-coated. Our hero, Lieutenant Commander Ross Hale. Applause filled the room. Ross nodded politely. Modest in that effortless way men learn, when they know the room already belongs to them. When someone asked what I did, my mother answered before I could speak. She's in the Navy too, just behind a desk. Somebody has to fix the computers right. The table erupted in laughter. I smiled faintly, took a sip of wine and let the burn sit behind my teeth. Ross leaned closer, easy and confident. So you're Navy to it, right? Something like that, I said. He grinned, not catching the shift in my tone. We almost didn't make it back from Lynx fire. The comms went dark. Some female CEO overrode command. Saved the whole team never found out who she was. But she was brave as hell. The name hit like a drumbeat I hadn't heard in years. Lynx fire, I could still smell the sand. Hear the static in his voice through the headset as he begged for extraction. My pulse steadied. I looked out the window where the Ashley shimmered under the moonlight. The same calm surface that always hid its current. He had no idea the woman he was praising was sitting right beside him, pretending her wine glass was just something to hold. When dinner ended, Elaine lifted her glass again. Smiling too wide, Madeline brings pride to this family. Josephine brings stability. Laughter again practiced and cruel. I stood quietly, chair legs scraping against the floor. I didn't speak, I didn't need to. Outside, the night air carried salt and magnolia behind me. Laughter spilled from the house. Bright and shallow, I stood on the porch listening until it faded. Until all I could hear was the rhythm of my own breath. Tomorrow at the engagement party, I wouldn't have to correct them. The truth had waited long enough. It would rise on its own like the tide. And when it did, no one in that house would be ready for it. The Charleston Yacht Club glowed like a postcard from another century. Crystal chandeliers, slow jazz, champagne bubbling in tall flutes. I stood near the edge of the room, my back against the paneled wall, holding a glass I hadn't tasted. It wasn't the kind of place built for truth. It was built for performance. Madeline floated through the crowd in ivory silk. Her arm locked with Ross's. He looked every bit the war hero. Straight shoulders, polite smile. Steady eyes, guests watched them like they were royalty. My mother moved through the room, in her pale green gown rehearsed grace in every gesture. I could hear her from across the room, her voice polished and bright. Ross met our family through the naval circle, and my younger daughter Madeline brings such honor to our name. When someone asked about me, her tone dipped into amusement. Josephine, oh. She's in the Navy too, but the kind that fixes printers. A few laughs scattered across the tables. I raised the glass to my lips, felt the sting of bubbles, and swallowed nothing but bitterness. Ross approached, smile. Easy eyes curious. Joe, right? Your mother says you're in cyber. You'd be surprised how often our systems crash mid-mission. You'd be surprised how often we fix them mid-battle. I said. He laughed. Thinking I was joking, I wasn't. He mentioned Operation Lynx fire casually. Like an old camp story, he spoke of radio failure. Bad intel, the miracle that saved them. A female officer had broken the chain of command and pulled them out alive. Never knew her name, he said. But she saved us. My throat tightened. I remembered his voice crackling through static command. We're compromised. I'd made that call. The one that saved him. Then my mother claimed the microphone. Light washed over her sequined dress as she raised her glass to my daughter. Madeline and her brave fiancé, Lieutenant Commander Ross Hale, a man of courage, discipline, and strength. Applause filled the room. Then she turned, smiling in my direction, and this is my eldest, Josephine. She works with computers, Probably knows how to fix Ross's printer someday. Laughter again, cruel and polite. Ross's smile faltered. I set my glass down and said, calm but sharp enough to cut through the noise. Commander Josephine Callahan, Office of Naval Intelligence. The room froze. Ross blinked, color draining from his face. Office of Naval Intelligence Cyber Division.